So thank you guys for coming in today. We're gonna kind of jump in here in just a couple minutes on a lot of self-care with lymphatic systems. I don't know, what made you guys come, but the goal of today is to teach you how to manage much, if not all of that yourselves, okay? So it is nice to have somebody help facilitate some of that stuff, but most of the lymphatic stuff you guys can do, you can all do to yourself, along with some of the stuff that they offer here as far as infrared saunas and floating, okay? Because we're going to try to expedite the process of relieving fluids and toxins and things from our bodies. And there's a lot of really cool ways you can do that. So we're going to kind of cover all those pretty much in their entirety. If you have questions, it's pretty much open talking discussion as we move along. I'm not very regimented with how I do things. So please, you don't necessarily have to raise your hand, but throw something at me if you want to stop or whatever. And we'll do some of the demo on Kim here. She volunteered to do that. So all of you will be doing this stuff to yourselves today. So I'm not going to be poking and prodding and pressing. That can be done at my office if you really want me to. But today we'll kind of do a little demo on her, and you guys are going to start to practice on yourselves a little bit today. So unless we have any other initial questions, we can get started, okay? So does anybody, let's just start with a question then. Do you guys have a general idea of what the lymphatic system is currently? Okay, what is it to you?
To me, it's the system that moves toxins throughout your body.
Okay, yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, in generalities, it's helping remove, it could be toxins or it could just be waste, right? Okay. So our body is always having things that die and, through our cells, and we regenerate, our gut tissue regenerates all the time. Like 90 days worth, you're gonna have a whole new stomach, basically. So it has to carry those products through your body, out of the bloodstream, kind of diffuses out to remove from your body that way. You can probably tell that you probably have a harder time removing a little bit of fluids from your lower legs now that there's a little bit more going on here. So that's the same idea with anybody that has a stoppage or a blockage, is you start to get a little bit more fluid retention, okay? And then the same thing can happen with like cancer and stuff like that too. If you have lymph nodes removed, it creates extra stress on all the other lymphatic areas to try to remove everything from your body. And a lot of times it can't keep up if you have too much removed. And you'll see somebody with like lymphedema, where one limb is bigger than the other. That is literally just the inability of the lymph nodes to keep up with the processes of the body on a day-to-day basis. So, and it's pretty drastic sometimes how just one area of lymph node removal just backs up everything. So it's good to keep as many lymph nodes as you can. They're not great to have removed. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what the system is doing. Okay?
Is that more of a Western approach to say, oh, something's wrong with this lymph node, let's remove it?
Yeah,
is that kind of what it is? Where
it happens a lot, yeah. So a general one, how many of you have your tonsils? Or how many have had your tonsils removed? Mm-hmm. A couple, I've had mine too. So those are lymph nodes.
Okay.
It's like,
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. They're like, wait a second, get out of here. Like, they're just like, they're swole, let's take them out. So I had mine taken out when I was young because I was congested a lot. It could have been the food I was eating as a young child, and they just pop them out. And then less inflammation in here because the lymph nodes aren't swelling up. Those are warning signs, right, that something's a little off. So like if you're sick, you'll feel a little swelling under your jawline. Mm-hmm. Okay. Same thing, something's off. You can almost use it as a warning sign to be like, oof, my body's a little bit struggling right now. Like things are going on. I need to take care of it before you get sick. So if you start to pay attention to the right signs, you'll actually know more before you're even sick than waiting until you actually are. If you just stop and check in on this stuff periodically, you'll start to notice that really quickly. So.
And things like diet and I guess unhealthy habits and behaviors create a backup in your lymph system?
Yeah. Well, we're going to go through kind of the system as a whole. Depending on how sunny it is how much you might be able to see. But I tried to change some of the font before I got in here today, so you can read it a little bit if you want to. But we'll talk through all this stuff. So today, as we kind of go through, it's a whole system that essentially follows your major arteries and veins as well. So if you can see some of the green on the picture here, okay, the condensed areas are the areas where there's the most lymph nodes, okay. This spot here too. So these are some of the main ducts, and even in your brain, which are a lot harder to access. But those are the main areas where the lymph nodes tend to be, and they need to be near the blood supply because they diffuse across back and forth from the blood to help pull waste products out. Okay, so they literally pretty much follow arteries and major arteries and veins along the body. Okay, so we can talk more nutrition and skincare and stuff like that towards the end. But I want to kind of make sure we go through some of the manual stuff that you guys can do first, and then we can talk as much or as little as you want about that. So if somebody doesn't care about it, they can wander out if they want to. But we'll go through the 4 main pieces that I think are the most important. Okay, everybody's got their own opinion, so take it for a grain of salt. Okay, but dry brushing. Okay. We're going to kind of go through and just kind of show you what that looks like. That's the most simple version of lymphatic care. We're going to use some neurolymphatic points. So your brain is in charge of you, basically, right? So those automatic responses you have to things are more of a subconscious, right? So whether you realize it or not, okay, the lymphatic system influences your neurology and how your brain works. So if you're having a hard time with certain movements or with breathing, if the lymph nodes in this vicinity get more swollen, okay, those will be really hard to feel because they're underneath your sternum, right? Okay, or just along it. If these get congested, you're now no longer going to be able to use your diaphragm properly, okay? Same with down here. If these ones get congested, your stomach, your digestion, your hip flexors, your core muscles aren't going to work as well anymore, okay? If you sprain an ankle, right, you're not going to want to use your ankle. Why is part of the reason that you don't want to use it? Because it's swollen and puffy, it doesn't move well, right? Okay? It's more dramatic when you can see it and feel it in like a swollen ankle. But if you're swollen through your lymph nodes in your stomach, you're also not going to want to use your core musculature the way it's supposed to. You're not going to want to digest food properly. You're not going to want to bring your hips up into your belly because that's going to create more compression, okay, and swelling. So a lot of the lymph nodes actually allow your body to feel freer, move better, breathe better by just working on some of those points as well. So I brought some charts that we'll use, and you guys can pass these around, look at as references too. So those are going to be the major points we're going to use on the body. And then if you guys want to sign up after, I can follow up with an email to send you guys this stuff so you can have some stuff to work on your own and have a chart to use at home. And something that we can talk about more is maybe leaving the charts here in the sauna rooms and stuff like that so people can massage those areas while they're actually in the sauna as well, to continue to expedite how that process works, okay? Our lymph nodes don't actually have a pump, okay? So our cardiovascular system has a heart, right, that moves the blood throughout the body, okay? So our lymph nodes don't have a heart or, similar tool that helps do that. But what they do is they use the diaphragm, okay? The major area is here. And you're going to see in some of the other pictures, our diaphragm is right in this space, okay? This is where we're going to palpate some today too. But if you kind of know like where the bottom of your ribs are, that's where your diaphragm hangs out, okay? So when you inhale using your diaphragm, okay, you're moving your diaphragm down, okay, which is pushing on those lymph nodes, okay. So that compression, relaxation is going to create a little bit of a pump through the lymph nodes in your stomach, okay. So just squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. The diaphragm moving up and down how it naturally should creates that motion. You're gonna have a really hard time with that today, but yeah, but that's what should create lymph node motion, okay? If we don't know how to breathe the diaphragm, or we breathe up into the neck and shoulders, or we just breathe with a lot of tension in the back, then we're gonna have a real hard time creating that motion. So we'll go through a couple positions today that allows you to feel your diaphragm moving, expanding, contracting, and being able to make sure that that's something that's happening. And it has to, if it's a process that you're not inherently good at naturally, it just takes a little bit of conscious breathing for a while to be able to shift that subconscious pattern back to normal. Our body wants to do what's optimal for it, and getting a nice diaphragmatic breath is very optimal for breathing in deeply and fully. But if it's restricted, it just takes a little bit of practice to get that restored a little bit. So we'll see how good Kim is at that today. It's like, crap, what did I volunteer for? But so those are the dry brushing, the neurolymphatic points, the diaphragm breathing, and then doing something like the sauna or the float tank. Those are gonna help flood your body with nutrients, or the sauna is going to push through kind of the first couple layers. They get a little deeper into your tissue, the infrared sauna compared to a regular sauna does. So most of the lymph nodes where they start to pull are going to be along the skin, the armpits. So they're pretty close to the skin, except for some of the ones that are along the spine to the sternum. But those are the ones that you get to use your diaphragm to stimulate. Okay, so those are the kind of the main points of, you know, our lymphatic system. We could spend, you know, time going over which ones, now that you can actually see it a little bit better. So tonsils right up here, you know, some of these other ones kind of that work all the way through. Your appendix is part of that system, spleen, okay, thymus up along your heart. So there are multiple pieces, okay, but it's a closed loop system, okay. There's no end or outlet solely. It's not like your digestive tract, okay. It goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, okay. So as long as you stimulate one, you're helping stimulate the others, and you can work in a circular pattern to start to move that. I tend to work top here, bottom up, because most of where the removal is going to happen is in this area, and then you can use your diaphragm to help facilitate that. But I don't know that there is a wrong way, but you're just helping use gravity, especially if you lay on your back, have your feet up a little bit during some of this stuff with your breathing too. It's going to help move the fluid back to your chest cavity a little bit better. Okay. Anybody have questions initially on the lymphatic system, you know, why we're doing these things? Any questions or concerns with any of that? Sweet.
Are tonsils the only lymph that's like normally removed?
Appendix. You'll get people that have their
Okay.
appendix,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Not usually voluntarily.
Right.
Those are usually kind of, well, yeah, but think about that.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process of that, right? Your appendix erupts, what was probably happening? It was just stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed, and just goes one day. So there's probably also a lot of warning signs around that. I'm sure you've saw some swollen people before. Lots of them, yeah. So there's usually a lot of warning signs ahead of time, and the pulling in the ankles is super obvious for most people too, if they've got that backup of fluid, because gravity's holding it down there too. What's up?
I have a quick question. Do the lymph nodes change over time? So let's say you didn't, obviously you're saying there can be like tension, right? But just as you age, do they get like weaker or something? Or that's irrelevant, it's just like health in general?
I don't know if weaker or stronger. That's a great question. I think our body, they're made of collagen. So if we take that thought process, you lose elasticity and tension through our collagen as we get older. So let's assume that if that stuff is slowly deteriorating a little bit, that it's possible that it's not as effective. But I can't say that, like, if you think of somebody that's just older, like pick somebody in their 80s, that if they look and move and do things, they don't necessarily look swollen. They actually look the opposite a lot of times to me, you know. So I don't know if that would be true in any way. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to look into it more, but I wouldn't imagine that that should be a big issue as long as you have all the parts and pieces, you're breathing, you're moving. Those people tend to not look more swollen to me, I don't think. So yeah, I don't know, it's a good question, but it's made of collagen, so I would imagine there's some elasticity that is kind of degraded over time. So yeah, cool. Hopefully that helps enough.
Yeah.
All right, good with that said, we'll bump in. So we'll leave this one up because we're going to move into some breathing after and kind of talk about the internal cavities. But in the meantime, we're going to go over a little dry brushing on Kim, and then we'll go over the neurolymphatic points, and then we'll start to talk breathing, okay? Because I like to get the massaging and movement happening first, and then we'll sit down and spend some time taking some deep breaths, okay? Something else worth noting, if you guys are interested, is what I like people to do is to take a moment to check into, and you know the whole routine already, to check in on how your body moves before and after doing these, okay? So usually a simple test is usually to come up, and then before we go through all these, I'll do them to her first, but you can check now if you want, but check how your neck moves, check how your spine moves, okay? Because we want these things to feel freer after we do this, okay? So it's a simple test as far as taking your chin to your chest, touching each collarbone, and then doing something as simple as touching your toes, seeing how that feels. Maybe just kind of sitting down, seeing how it feels on your joints and your body to do those things. So before we actually start doing any of the neurolymphatic points and self-massage and stuff like that, I just want you guys to check in on how you're feeling, and then we'll see if it changes after we do the manual on yourself and some of the breathing afterwards, okay? So dry brushing, there's lots of different types of brushes, okay? Usually we want them to be pretty soft, okay? There's a couple different options, but again, the goal isn't to like smash yourself or scratch yourself with it, but really what's gonna happen is you're gonna create an effect of thinking about moving everything to the center, using the brush down your body, okay? You can kind of go up through your body. It's probably better to do that sitting down and like bring a leg up, but essentially the goal is to hit pretty much all of your skin, okay? Because there are some that are more extraneous on the outsides compared to those midline. So we're gonna work all the way up the body. You're gonna hit your stomach a little bit, your chest, especially the front of your neck. If you saw those pictures, there's a lot through here, okay? So especially hitting the neck, the face, the head, and trying to get that moving back towards the center, okay? So I didn't bring, maybe that's something we could do in the future, is like just supply everybody with a brush. That's a good idea. But any of these brushes work as long as they're nice soft bristles, okay? And you're probably gonna spend somewhere between 2 or 3 minutes just kind of moving fluid. I actually think mentally I already feel better just having that light stimulation like all over your body, because rarely does every single part of your body get touched in a day-to-day basis. So like you're literally covering every inch of your body with that. So the dry brushing is pretty simple. It's just taking and brushing up to your heart and belly with every part of your body. So what I'll do too is make a little video for you guys. If you guys sign up and just put your emails down afterwards, I'll send out a video of the dry brushing, going through the whole body after, if you want to have reminders on that stuff to go along with it. So I can make a simple little video to kind of cover all that stuff, okay? So the dry brushing is actually really simple. There's nothing too crazy about it. Anybody have questions with dry brushing? So it's outside in, okay, especially working here. Another nice thing you can do is take like a cheap toothbrush and kind of work all along your jawline really well. If you want to be very specific along the jawline, kind of the back of the ear and stuff like that too, that works really well to kind of put a little bit more firm pressure on it, because anytime you have a wider point, you're not going to get as much specific stimulation areas. So toothbrushes actually work really good too, especially if you have a soft bristle one, especially if you feel like you constantly get congested in this area. So if you have sinus issues, that area, this is called the wheelhouse basically, okay, water wheel. So all the fluid from your head drains right behind your jawline down underneath the collarbone, okay? So that's when you're congested, you'll feel this here. You get a sore in your mouth, you'll feel this here. You're starting to get sick. So everything from your head, I think something crazy like 75% of the total volume of lymph nodes is in here. So they're all over the body, but there's so many through here that it covers 75% of the entirety of all of them. Okay, so neck and face is super important to try to get fluids. Think about like acne and stuff like that too. Okay, if you have a backup of chemicals or toxins happening, especially along this line, okay, it's got to go somewhere. Okay, so it can get pushed out in other directions. Okay, so dry brushing is pretty smooth. So we'll go through, I'll have her start sitting for some of these, and you're welcome to watch. We'll do some of them on the back so you guys can stand up here and watch too after we get her going. You're welcome to kind of palpate and touch too as we kind of go along through them, okay? And then I'll try to help make sure everybody, especially since there's a small group of you guys today, everybody can feel and know what's happening with that stuff, okay? So typically we start from the top with the lymph nodes, okay? So when you're looking at yourself, potentially in the mirror, or if you're just feeling around, okay, you're gonna kind of start around the back of the head. So everybody's got like the bone where all the tissue connects into. So when you're feeling around, it's gonna start right along the occiput or on the back of your skull where it connects into your spine, okay? Can everybody find those points all right? Okay. How are you doing there?
Good.
Okay, a little tender at all?
A little, yeah.
Okay. So you're looking for some tenderness, that's quite all right, okay? You're just not trying to beat it to oblivion, okay? But if it is a little tender along that line, okay, that's where we're gonna start to look for the stuff that's coming out of the head, okay? So right along the back side, how are you doing there?
Good. It's mainly, I noticed it here on the left side.
More on the left?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. So kind of just working through there. And any area that feels more painful slash swollen slash uncomfortable, just take your time and work through there. It should dissipate as long as you're continuing to work through those areas, okay? So right along through the back of the skull, okay? And then as you start to move forward, you're gonna be right on the back of the jaw, okay? So this little water wheel spot, how's that in there?
Fine. Are you moving in a counterclockwise motion? Does that matter?
So you want to make little circles, okay? Circles are great, okay? When you're on the jaw, you almost want to push forward like you were going to push your jaw forward as you're kind of rubbing along the back edge. You'll feel the corner of your jaw, okay? And you're going to go just above it and kind of start to push forward as you do that. So there's the corner, and then you push forward a little bit through there and just rub in small circles. Usually it can be a little tiny bit tender through the back of the jaw there too, okay? And then you just end up doing the same thing on the other side. So you're just gently taking the corner of your jaw and you're rubbing right along the back edge, okay? It's easier when you're doing it to yourself to kind of do both at the same time, okay? So you're just gently pushing along that, and you might find some tender spots along the back edge there, okay? How's that one?
Good.
Okay. So the neurolymphatic points that are up top are gonna start along the occiput of the head as you work out, okay? And then they're gonna be right on the back corner. Does everybody feel like they have those spots comfortably? Okay, good. So those are the spots on the back, okay? And then as you move around to the front, okay, if you have sinus congestion problems, I like doing a little bit over the face and the eyes, okay? So you would just work, is it okay if I rub through here? You're gonna be kind of starting right at the eyebrow and working out across the eyebrow, okay? So if you get headaches ever, anybody ever get headaches? Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, okay. So they put Botox in this spot, right? Okay. So a lot of times, okay, it's the lymph nodes and the tissue right above the eyebrow. The muscle actually gets a little annoyed, and the tissue can get swollen underneath it, which can cause you to have headaches there. So they put Botox there to try to help stop that from happening, okay? Then people's headaches get better, right? So usually it has nothing to do with the Botox other than they're creating space in there for that muscle not to be able to be tight anymore, okay? A little tender in there?
No.
No? Good. We'll try the other side just real quick. Just so I don't want you like being crooked all day now since I'm doing this to you, okay? But you're just kind of looking right along the eye ridge, okay, as you're going out, okay? It's gonna be just above a little. And then for the nose, you're gonna take right on the top of each side and you're gonna start to pull it apart. You should actually feel your nose opening as you pull apart. And you're gonna follow the line of the bone, okay, right across your cheek. If you take an inhale when you're pulling it apart, you'll actually feel the air probably comes in a little easier. If you take an inhale when you're not doing that, you might feel that it's a little more congested, okay? So you can kind of pull through there to start to open up your nasal passageway a little bit more. And those are sinus cavities back in there too, that you're shifting and creating space for sinus cavities to get air in and out, okay?
Does it mean anything if you have one side versus another?
Yeah, just one side's more inflamed than the other. You could have a deviated septum in your nose, so you can breathe in one side more than the other. You could have had a broken nose, which I did on one side, which one side was a little more compressed than the other. So it just happens to be one-sided a lot more. Your body does shift left and right throughout the day though, which one it uses a little bit more, just like it uses one side of your body more than the other all the time too. But the goal is that they're both pretty darn open all the time. And even doing this stuff before bed really helps us start to get the nose opened up so you can breathe and sleep a little bit better as well, okay?
Is that what people are doing when they use those facial rollers where they're like the, okay.
Yeah, the jade rollers
Yeah.
and stuff. You can use jade rollers on your face. I like the tackiness of being able to put my finger on it and just feel like it's shearing it apart a little bit more. The jade rollers just kind of rub on it. Because we're kind of creating like a shearing effect by moving the skin and the tissue off of the sinus cavity of where it sits all the time. And then you can just feel that it feels like that starts to open up a little bit better after, okay? So nose, and then as you work down, okay, you're gonna start to move down to your sternum area, okay? So you can take the collarbone, okay, and you can kind of shift over and under on the collarbone, okay, on both sides, okay. I like to kind of shift your fingers back and forth. You can use one at a time, okay, and go over and under just with one finger, okay. And you might find that there's a little bit of tender spots underneath the collarbone as well as you're moving down through there. So along the collarbone, and then you can start right at the sternum as well, okay. The sternum can be a little tender right down the center, okay. And you just take as far down the sternum as you're comfortable. You just don't want to run over the very tip, your xiphoid, because you can actually break that if you get to the very, very bottom. So you just feel where your ribs come together and don't rub on the tip of it at all, okay? But everything else all the way up and down is fair game. I like to do one pass directly in the center, okay? After you do the directly in the center pass, you move just off to the side. So you should be able to feel the spaces between the ribs where they connect on the side, okay? So both sides, right in between the ribs, you'll start to notice if there's a little bit of tender spots.
Oh yeah, there's a tender spot
You're,
there too. I
you're like,
noticed it.
oh yeah.
That was it.
Eyeballs got bigger. So there's a center pass, there's a left and a right. So there's essentially 3 passes right in the center of your chest, okay? And we'll do this stuff too a little bit more after. I just want to kind of go through like a whole round of showing you. So center, and then you come off the center right onto the rib space, okay? You'll be able to feel the next rib, and then you move below it into the space between, okay? So those are the spots in the chest. These are the ones that you want to get to be able to breathe better, okay? Because your sternum, as we go through the breathing part, okay, needs to be able to move up and down. If there's a lot of fluid retention around and below that, your sternum is not going to move very well when you breathe. Did you get a couple of spots in there that are a little tender? It's like, it is. It's a nice.
It hurts so good.
It's a hurt good thing, yeah. And as you get better and less capable of rubbing those spots, you can start to dig a little bit deeper with it, okay? Our tissue is made to be able to handle 40 to 60 pounds of pressure, okay? So if you're putting like 10 pounds of pressure and it's already a little tender, you got a little bit of work to do on that tissue, okay? Lymph nodes, musculoskeletal tissue, all that stuff should be able to handle about 40 or 60 pounds of pressure before it feels really uncomfortable, okay? We have light pressure receptors in our skin and deep pressure receptors, okay? Has anybody used like a foam roller or anything before? Okay, well, I figured most of you are kind of like into that stuff. So that's deeper pressure, right? If you get on a foam roller, certain spots light you up like Christmas, okay? But those, if you put your body weight on, that's probably more than 40 or 60 pounds, right? Okay? This is definitely, for most people, not 40 or 60 pounds of pressure yet, okay? I know it seems like a weird spot, like, well, it's my sternum. Of course it's gonna feel like shit. But a lot of times, if you take the back of your elbow and push on the bone, does that feel the same as your chest did?
No.
Okay,
I
right?
don't feel anything, yeah.
Yeah, so you should be able to push on a bone and it not be tender.
Oh, wow.
Were you thinking the same thing? Like, of course it's
Yeah,
tender, you
yeah,
silly goose.
yeah.
Yeah, right? So yeah, that shouldn't be overly tender just because it's on your sternum. Okay, make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll get this collarbone for her too. You're gonna kind of work under and over the collarbones, okay? Out to where the collarbone runs into your shoulder, and you can do above and on top. And again, this is on that chart that I can send you guys, so you can kind of work your way through that, okay? Once you get through there, then you're gonna find the armpit. Armpit has a lot, okay? And we'll walk through this together as a group, so don't feel like you have to memorize everything, okay? So you're gonna take right through the armpit, okay? You're gonna almost imagine you're like sawing your arm off in that area, because that's the area you wanna try to hit to try to get those armpit lymph nodes that are gonna run right through the front, right from the point of where the collarbone is, along the front line of your pec. So imagine you're outlining your pec on the outside or following along, okay, through the collarbone to that point. How's that one? That one okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So pecs on both sides, you're kind of working your way down, okay? And then once we get through there, okay, we're gonna move to our bellies, okay? And then I'll have her lay down and you guys can pop up here for that one in just a second. So you can actually see what's happening through the stomach a little bit when we do some of the techniques on the belly, okay? How's that side?
Fine.
Good. All right, so you're gonna pop on your back, okay? If you guys wanna come up here, just kinda hang out and I'll do it on the back side so you can see, okay? So I like doing these. We're gonna do our breathing in a hook lying. We'll have you do a little bit different breathing position, but we're gonna go hook lying. So we're gonna go feet flat on the ground, okay? If you feel like you want your legs supported, you can either put a little ball between your legs, okay? Or if you want your hips open, you can put some support on the outside edge too. Or you could use like a yoga strap to hold your legs in place, okay? But generally you wanna kinda keep them in place, okay? Do you mind if I pull your shirt up a tiny bit? Okay. So when we're going through belly, okay, you want to feel your rib cage, okay? So you're kind of working on each side of your ribs. Your ribs make a 90-degree angle, hopefully, okay? If your ribs are really wide, okay, we want them to come a little bit more down. If they're really close together, we want them to get a little bit wider, okay? So when you inhale, as we go through the breathing slides, they should open because you're letting air in, right? Okay, inhale. Exhale, ribs close. Inhale, they open. Exhale, they close, okay? So as you're working through these spots,
Are you saying like on the ribs or right underneath?
yeah, so take your hand and cover the edge of your ribs. Okay. Everybody's are going to be different. Some of you are going to be like this. Some of you are going to be a little wider. Okay. But you want to fit your hands in and make like a V angle, kind of pushing into your stomach.
On the edge of that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do it to her and show you.
Everybody put their hand
I know. So usually when you do this, you take initially, I would take, do your best to relax. So hers is a little bit more narrow. See how the angle looks there? Okay. So hers are pretty close together, which means she's a lot more likely to be in an exhaled state where her ribs are a little closed. Okay. If your ribs are closed all the time, okay, you tend to have a little bit more of digestive issues and stuff like that because you're never getting your diaphragm to drop down as well. Okay. Because the diaphragm drops when you inhale, right? Okay. So we'll see if hers moves a little. So go ahead and take a breath in. There you go. Do you see how that changes a little bit? And as you exhale, it moves a little bit back together. Inhale, moves apart. Exhale, moves together. And everybody's rib cage is a little bit different. So some people's might start a little closer together. But as long as we're seeing a nice reciprocal open and close, that's what we're shooting for. Okay. So as far as the massage itself goes through your lymph nodes, you're going to take right along that edge, okay, and work right on the inside edge of those ribs, okay? So if stuff's a little tender, you can just be like, oof, and let me know. But as you work into some of those spots, you might find that there's a little bit of tenderness in there. Then you just stop and spend some time and you kind of breathe into those spots, okay? So we're just kind of looking along the edge, okay? You're almost painting the whole edge of your ribs there. Okay. Any tender spots in there?
No, not yet.
Pretty good? Good. Okay, and things don't have to feel shitty. Like, that's not the goal, right? You know, like,
That's what I was going to ask. Is
Yeah.
how do you tell the difference between, like, tenderness, pain, discomfort? Like, how can you tell when you should stop?
The main, yeah, I mean, to me, the rules are if you're gritting your teeth or sweating or clenching your hands, you're pushing too much, okay? If you're able to breathe comfortably and still do it, then you're in the ballpark. If you feel your heartbeat, like you're pressing on your heartbeat, get off of that, okay? And let that continue. You'd be surprised. I have to clarify a lot of times, okay? But you want to be able to feel, this side feels a little different than the other side. What do you think?
Nothing tender.
Nothing tender? Okay, good. Okay. So you're just kind of working through there. Again, we're just moving some lymph nodes around right on the edge of the diaphragm. Okay. And then you move from that point down more right in the center of the belly.
That's tender.
So yeah, different spots. Okay. So the center is your cisterna chyli. Okay, is where the main lymph duct is. Okay. So you kind of just work through those spots. Yeah, you're like, oh, that one doesn't feel good, okay? And that one would be where you mostly find your heartbeat, is kind of right down the center, usually on just slightly on the left side, okay? But you're just kind of looking around, you're kind of playing search and destroy, okay? Nicely. Like, search and move out of the way. But you're kind of just moving through that tissue, okay? You get to the belly button, okay? Run down the center, and then until you run in the belly button, then you move off to the side an inch, okay? And then you start again, okay? Yeah, and then you find some spots kind of along until you run into like where the hip bone is. So hip bone, and you just kind of move through, and then you would do that on both sides, okay? So that one's gonna be helpful for the digestive system. It's gonna be helpful for your hip flexors to function well because all that stuff ties into this space, okay? Once you get to that hip bone, guys, can everybody find their hip bone just really quick? Just feel the bone on the front of their hip, okay? So once you find that, you're gonna rub right on the edge of that, okay? Like your ilioinguinal ligament is what you're kind of feeling, okay? But right on the edge of that is where everything kind of makes its way up into the belly, okay?
The inside edge?
Yeah, right on the inside edge of the hip bone, okay? How's that spot?
Fine.
I mean,
Good.
I guess this,
So,
I don't know where your
I'm just trying not to laugh because it's
a little ticklish? Yeah. So, cool thing is, for you, you can't tickle yourself. So when you're doing it to somebody else, it can tickle sometimes. Okay, good job. You're a soldier. But, okay, on the other hand, in my world, tickle is a precursor for pain. Okay? What happens when somebody tickles you? What do you want them to do?
Stop.
Or get away from me, right? Like stop, get away, okay? So that is actually an indication that there might be something going on a little bit deeper, okay? That if you can work through those spots, yeah, if you're ticklish everywhere, I don't know what to tell you.
Your arms are especially ticklish?
Well, now?
Is that why your underarms are especially ticklish?
It can be. I mean, it's a combination of being vulnerable, okay? We're exposing all of the most vulnerable areas, right? To somebody specifically, if somebody else is doing it to you, right? Like animals would, they get out of this position as soon as possible, right? They're just trying to protect themselves. So these areas are also put there, if we're talking like primally and like how things work, for protection. Like you can't get those areas cut open, like if you were in a fight or something like that, because it wouldn't end well for you. So it is a combination of mentally feeling exposed and like get away, like it's not really comfortable with that. But if you can work on those areas yourself, okay, a lot of times you can kind of move past the threat of feeling like you're being exposed in some of those areas. So it kind of works both ways. With it feeling like a threat, she doesn't trust me that much yet. But having somebody that you can feel comfortable with doing that to you, it's not like the first day I'm always like, all right, let's go. Like I try to work into doing this stuff with clients a little bit, and making sure that they start to feel comfortable with the process of working on these areas, which is why it's much nicer if you start on yourself first, right? You can get comfortable with those areas and start to find the areas that feel a little tender anyways, okay? So you move from the hip, okay, to the inner thigh basically. So you're gonna work all along, this one might tickle too, okay? All along the inner edge of the thigh, okay? And you're gonna...
It's like very sore, like everything so far is really
Yeah.
sore. Yeah.
So you're gonna almost feel the bone, okay? And rub right along the inside of the bone there, okay? So okay? So this is core and pelvic floor stimulation if we're using it for like how your body functions, okay? Especially if you've had kids or about to have kids, this is a great area to just lightly move over because this is how all the lymph fluid moves back through the body when you have a little bit of swelling in the legs, okay? So.
But for all of these things, you're just doing circular movements. You're not pulling any. That's only with the dry brushing that you're pushing.
Yeah, more pulling with the dry brush. It's a lot lighter stimulation, okay? But I like to just do some small circles. I can't say, and there's nothing research-wise that's going to be like, if you do it in reverse or clockwise, counterclockwise, or like, you kind of have to experiment a little bit on your own. Like, it's your body, see what feels okay, kind of work through those areas, okay? But there's not going to necessarily be like 100% right way or 100% wrong way. You can even, especially in this position, it seems silly, but vibration creates a moving effect on the fluid too, right? So even if you just kind of go through, especially if you're really tender in those areas, and just create a little bit of vibration with the legs moving fluid this way, okay, you can even get a little bit of fluid motion kind of happening down this way, especially if you're super tender in there. I'll start with this a lot of times if somebody's like, you're gonna have to carry me out of this office if you do these anymore. So some people can be so tender through these areas that they don't want me to like put a finger on them, okay? So working down the thigh, and then in the lower leg, the best area to work is just behind the back of the knee, okay? It's called your popliteal fossa. So there's a little hole in the back if you kind of push up through the back of the knee, okay, in between the two hamstrings, okay? And that's where most of the fluid gets. If somebody hurts their knee, they always feel fluid in the back of their knee, okay? Because that's where all the swelling goes if you damage something in this area, okay? So So those are going to be your points all along the body. Okay, I have, like I said, I have the charts that you can look at. There's more as well, but that's 90% of the big points to hit. Okay, you can even kind of explore through your rib cage a little bit. There'll be little spots in between the rib cage through there too that sometimes are a little tender on both sides. So I like to do the rib ones sometimes as well. And if you have somebody doing it to you, there's a lot of them along the back of the body as well. Kind of hard to get to yourself. Okay. So that's the lymphatic points. Okay. What we'll do is we'll kind of go through these. You guys can make a little room, lay on your back, start to go through, see if you can go from top to bottom. I'll have the charts that you guys can pass around and look at as well. Okay. But start to feel those out. You can do them sitting cross-legged and stuff too. But try to start to find a position you feel comfortable in and start to work from back of the head, jaw, chest, sternum, belly, inner thigh. Okay? So test those guys out a little bit. And I'll help you if you need assistance on them. Okay. Good. Yeah, you just want to trace that whole line, usually right underneath the skull right there, okay? So that whole line, okay? Okay, so I'm just going to outline it for you real quick so you can feel. So usually you're going to be right along this whole line. Just feel right on the edge of the bone and the tissue comes together. So that's where you would kind of work across. Do you want me to feel a little bit? Yeah, what's up?
Just stretching. Would stretching help to like drain the lymphatic system as well?
Stretching generally isn't going to affect that because you're affecting just the muscle tissue. Most of the lymphatics don't reside inside of the muscle tissue. Okay, so you want to follow that line along the skull, okay, on both sides.
Okay.
And then as you work your way out, you follow the skull over and then right into the back right there. Okay?
Okay, and then all along there.
Yeah, you can run along. Yeah, or in the face. You can kind of explore through there a little bit too. Okay?
Thanks.
Got her down? So yeah, so you're just going to follow the occiput along the head. Okay? On both sides. If there's a little tenderness in there, you just kind of hang up. And then you follow it right into the back of the jaw, right on that corner. Usually it's a little tender in there. Okay. And then you'd work that down to sternum and collarbone, or hit the face in there if you want to too. Okay.
What's the difference between, can we just push, and does that make, like if we just apply like constant pressure versus moving it, what does that do? What's the difference?
Constant pressure creates closing of the lymph tissue, right? Okay. If you have a small ball or a little balloon and I smush it, okay, we're closing the tissue around it. Okay. So just applying pressure is actually going to close those lymph nodes. Like a hose, right? Imagine stepping on a hose. Okay. What happens to it? Okay. That's why we try to move in like some circles. Okay. Because we're not ever hopefully closing the whole piece as you're moving along it that way. Okay.
Going in this direction.
Yeah, towards the heart most of the times.
What
Yeah.
happens when you're in, like dry brushing, for example? What do you do if you're going toward the center? What do you do in the center?
What do you do in the center?
Like you can't,
You can brush the center still.
but like where to brush?
Oh,
You're not
just
going to-
wherever, any direction around the midsection, because the diaphragm breathing is going to be what moves this stuff. We're getting it here, and then we use your diaphragm pump to kick it out, okay? Because that's what we'll get into next, okay? Everybody get sternum, rib cage. Okay, just keep working your way down. Stop me and ask if you have questions, okay?
I just always thought this was supposed to be like painful.
Yeah.
An analogy.
Yeah, it's a little different. Most things shouldn't hurt, okay? There are a couple of spots on the body that are going to be tender, but 90% of the areas should be pretty pain-free all the time, okay? How do you feel with all your spots?
Good.
Feel okay?
Yeah.
You get to feel a little bit ahead of
Yeah.
time, so. Okay. Okay. And I would still suggest, unless you're really good at kind of softening your belly, if you're going to do it sitting down when you do your belly, as you do it, kind of think about rolling forward to soften your ab wall. Okay. So if you're sitting tall, you're going to feel a stretch in the tissue, so you're not going to be able to get in as well. So soften a little bit, so you can see how I can get my fingers. Sorry, I know, yeah, but you can actually get your fingers in a little bit more if you soften your belly and kind of lean into it.
It's hard to breathe at the same time. I mean, for me.
Yes, we're going to go over the breathing part, okay? Because this is the area that we're going to be touching when you do the breathing to actually feel if you're getting the good breaths.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah. Because that's how we're going to use to indicate all that stuff, okay? But it might be a little tender through there as you kind of push your fingers in there. Everybody feel okay with the breathing or the massage points? And then make sure you get a little bit of inner thigh. You can lay on your back if you want to do that. I would say just do yours like seated. And just, you can either rub along this way or add that in. Okay. If you guys need help on any of the points, throw something at me.
How do you find the different tracks in your sternum? You said it's like just
One in the center, one straight in the center. So straight down the strip. And then you move a tiny, tiny bit off of the center, and your fingers will feel like they fall into a space.
If you're combining touch and dry brush,
Mhm.
is there one that you do before the other?
I like to do that order, dry brush, then this.
Then the touch?
Mm-hmm. Because we're going from superficial to deeper as we go, and then even deeper when you do the breathing.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a best time of day to do it? Like morning, night?
I can't say that I know that there would be a best time. Probably it's well spent doing it, especially in the evenings, because you've had food, you've been stressed, you haven't been breathing much. So this kind of allows your body to move into a deeper sense of relaxation as you go through these points too, and the breathing. So hopefully you can relax into your evening and get some sleep and feel like you're cleaned out for the next day. Because a lot of your physical body cleaning happens when you're asleep.
Okay.
Our body is in a cleaning process at night, right? So if you help get that stuff moving and stimulated before you get to sleep, hopefully it has the ability to make that happen better at night.
Yeah.
Okay? You okay with yours?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody?
So like behind our knee,
Yeah.
we're like lifting up our leg, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just
And
bring
just
your leg
like-
to you like that. Yeah,
Okay.
just lay your head back. And then you're just gonna feel right along both sides of the joint. So you you're like, ooh.
It was better the way that I was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody makes those faces
Yeah,
at me.
I wasn't
so.
expecting it to be like towards the calf more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so feel those hamstrings.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can go just above
Okay.
and just below.
Okay.
Okay.
So both sides.
Yeah.
Basically. And
Mhm.
that's basically as far down as we're going.
Yeah. The dry brush will get the rest of the
Okay.
fluid
Awesome.
because there's not very much deep because there's not a lot of deep tissue here. So
Okay.
the superficial gets a lot of that out of there.
Okay. Oh, that makes
Need help or
sense.
you got it? Okay. You're like, I don't want you to poke me.
You can show me that.
Yeah. So back of the calf is going to be kind of right through there. The legs can be super tender because guess what? They pull down all day, right? You good with yours?
That was so dramatic.
Um,
Sorry.
You want a little help?
The back of the leg would be good, yeah.
Yeah, so back of the leg is going to be here
Oh, okay.
or here, and then the same thing above
Okay.
and above.
Yeah.
Okay, so find those.
Yeah.
And then you go inside on the top, inside on the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, so 4 points really.
I actually feel really good for me.
You like it? Yeah. Yeah, I did the same to him as I did to you, and he's like, yeah, that's good. Okay. Where'd I set those? So, those are the, I'll send you that chart if you guys want to use that to help you guide yourself through there so you remember all those points. Okay. So questions on the lymph node, a little bit firmer massage points. Okay, good. So we're gonna hit our breathing really quick while the sun's not shining. Because I'm probably we started about 10 minutes late, so I technically have 10 minutes. I'm right on time, technically. So when you breathe, okay, this red line is meant to be your diaphragm, okay? The blue line is when you inhale, okay? So the diaphragm should drop as your lungs fill here, okay? As they drop, everything should get bigger as you inhale, okay? If you are blowing up a balloon, what happens to the balloon? It gets bigger in size, okay? A lot of people learn to, as they inhale, to pull in or try to look smaller still. You're shoving all that air up into neck and shoulders if you try to bring your belly in as you inhale, okay? You're stopping the diaphragm from moving down, okay? When the diaphragm moves down, okay, it's what you actually are going to end up feeling when we do this, and I'll have her demo a couple, because she actually does a great job with hers, that this should be displacing your intestines. So your intestines only have so far to go, okay? So you inhale, this moves down. What's happened to the pressure between my hands at this point? It's increased, right? Okay, because you're smushing a can or something like that, okay? So what you're going to get if you have a ball and you smush it this way, it's going to expand side to side, okay? So when you inhale, you're going to feel your sides get bigger, not feel, hopefully, everything getting smaller, okay? Because if it's getting smaller, this isn't dropping, and you're going to get a lot of neck tension. I think I made a lot of neck and aches and pains, okay? So if you breathe up, neck and shoulder tension, okay? So we need a diaphragm to do what to the lymph nodes in here? It needs to push down to pump the lymph nodes, okay? So this is your top view of your body if you're good with visuals. Spine is here, so like you'd be looking at me this way, okay? So air should be going out in every direction when you inhale. It shouldn't just be inhale, because I didn't go out this way. I only went out this way, okay? So when you inhale, you should actually get bigger in every 360-degree direction of your body.
Well, that's interesting, because a lot of times when I focus on exhaling, or in the inhale, I try to just extend my stomach. So that's good to...
I harassed some people the other day. Belly breathing is inherently bad technically, okay? Because what most people, it's semantics really, but what people do when they hear belly breathe is they go and try to push their belly forward, but what you've done is increase tension in your low back muscles. Most people don't like a tighter low back. Most people are trying to get rid of those things, okay? So if your inhale goes forward, you're creating low back tension for yourself, okay? So the goal is to expand fully through your body, okay, as you do that, okay? So
one question I have is when you mentioned earlier that my rib cage was closer together, but you said everybody's is different. Is the goal to expand it, or is it just be wherever you're at as long as there's expansion within that?
yes, both.
Okay.
So somewhere between 85 and like 95-degree angle is kind of where it is ideal to live at. Because what that's telling me, okay, is which way, like if you had a dial, turn the lights up or down a little bit, like a switch that kind of slides everything. Imagine that switch is setting in the center. The lights are in the middle, not all the way up, not all the way off. That's you at 90 degrees-ish, okay? You're balanced between inhale and exhale all the time, okay? If you're more towards exhale, okay, you're going to be resting more narrow, okay? If you're more towards inhale, you're going to be resting wide, okay? Does that kind of make sense?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're not stuck like that then?
Hope you can be.
Okay.
That's the problem.
But you could potentially change it.
Oh,
It's not
certainly.
Like that's, okay.
Yeah,
Just-
your muscles move your ribs, okay?
Okay.
So as you inhale, okay, you've expanded, okay? And you have muscles that help you inhale, okay? As you exhale, there's rib cage muscles that help bring your rib cage together. If you get stuck, if you're too inhaled all the time, you get stuck in inhalation. And if you don't move your neck to the left for 10 days straight, is your neck gonna feel stiff going left? Yeah, right? So you're gonna have a hard time turning your neck left because of that, okay? You're gonna have a hard time either expanding or contracting if you're always one way, You
So
just
it's
aren't.
not your muscles that are making it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not just like your bones. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, muscles move bones. Bones don't move themselves, right? Okay. Everybody has a little bit of difference in structure, okay, which is fine, okay. But that's where we get the anatomical variance. It's 100 to 80 at most, you know, with increase and decrease of that from there. Nobody wants to be 140. Like if you're out here, you probably weren't born that way, you know. So there's some variance, but not like super dramatic. Okay, did I answer questions on that? I get off topic really easily, so hopefully those were answered. Okay, can we go one more? Thank you. So as I was explaining, our rib cage moves like a bucket handle and it moves like a pump handle. Okay, this is a little tougher to see, but when you inhale, okay, your chest should rise and your spine should flex. Okay, so you're getting inhale, this comes up. Exhale, it comes down. So we're going to work on that in the breathing a little bit. So inhale up. So chest grows. Exhale, chest falls. Okay. We're only talking like 10 degrees, so it's super hard to see from this far away even. With the bucket handle, imagine you're grabbing those ribs that we were feeling. Okay. Inhale, they should lift. Exhale, they should fall. Okay. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fall. Okay, you guys could see it pretty good on Kim when she did that. Those are the bucket handles that we're looking at, but you should also be getting a fill every direction on the inhales as well. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna do a quick demo on her of a couple breaths. I'll show two positions, so one you guys can all do, one that you can do comfortably, okay? And then you're welcome to try either one though. They're all good for everybody. So pop on your back again real quick. Okay, if you guys want to get closer, you're welcome to. So this hook lying position is where we want to hang out though, okay? So knees up like this is going to get your pelvic floor and diaphragm in a nice comfortable position. Your back should feel pretty comfy there. So tuck your hips under just a little. There you go. And you feel how that flattens more, okay? We want a nice flat back on the floor, okay? Because what you're going to want to feel is when you inhale, I don't want this to come up, okay? Because you're going to want to do that, okay? So you want to feel your low back on the floor, okay? And then you want to take a nice inhale in through your nose. And then long exhale out through your mouth for me. As much air as you can get out. Good. And then you pause. Inhale again. Make sure you feel the air going into my hand underneath you. And yeah, long full exhale. Get all the air out. Go, go, go. Go. Yeah, nice job. One more. Can everybody see she's getting a fill at both? And the exhale is important. So as you exhale, you'll feel, if you get all the air out, you'll feel your chest drop. If you don't finish exhaling, it won't move much, okay? If you have a cup of water and you fill it all the way up, okay? And you only take half of it out, how much can you put back in? Half a cup, okay? If you don't get all of the air out, there's always gonna be some residual air in there, so you're never gonna actually run out of air in your body, okay? But if you force to finish the air out nice and easy like that, you'll feel the chest start to fall into the table. If you stop way early, you won't feel much motion happening here, okay? Questions on inhaling and exhaling like this, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to flip onto all fours for me real quick. And let's just go on your elbows. Good. Yes, that's perfect. Okay. So since you're pregnant, we're not supposed to put a lot of pressure on the low back, ideally. Okay. So shift your weight in your elbows a little more for me. Good. And then just tuck your tail between your legs. So what you're going to do is try to tuck a little to try to make this a little bit flatter. And this is going to be harder, Kim, but I want you to try to breathe where my hands are. Nice, you see how our back filled up? Exhale all the air out again, just like you did on the table. Good. Inhale into my hands. Good. Exhale all the air out. Okay, so I want you to work on that a little bit, okay, because you want to be able to take pressure off of your low back. If you can start to get some air in here, it's going to make your back feel a lot looser after getting a little bit of breathing done, okay? You guys are welcome to try this one too. the floor is nice feedback if you're in the other position. Here, I'm giving her some feedback by doing this, which makes it a ton easier to feel. But you need to be able to feel like you're still filling and exhaling the exact same way in this position as you would on your back. Okay? Questions on the breathing? Take a break. Cool. Let's pop on our backs and do a little bit of breathing. Okay? So what I would like to have, okay, is try to get comfy on your back. Okay? Keep those legs up at 90, or like a hook lying 90-ish degrees. Okay? Yeah, on your elbows. Yeah. Are you okay with that? Okay. And then what you're going to do from there, okay, is put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. Okay? You want to feel both of them filling up, okay, along with keeping your low back in contact with the floor. Okay? If your low back is not in contact with the floor, I want you just to put your tailbone between your legs, kind of like a dog that's in trouble. Okay? So imagine your dog's in trouble for you chewing up the couch, and your low back should lightly press into the floor if you put your tailbone between your legs. Good. Can you give me a little tiny tuck with your tail for me? Other way. Yeah, there you go. And then just try to think about breathing in here. Really nice job. Good job. You may actually feel your abs working a little bit too, just because of the extra weight, okay? But just try to get 5 or 6 breaths for me, okay? This way I can walk around and look at everybody. And you're gonna go in through the nose for about 4 seconds. And a nice sigh for 8 on the way out, probably. It'd be a good number, okay? On your exhale, okay? Imagine you're fogging up your glasses, but imagine you have like a super huge pair of glasses and you have to breathe and fog up the entire piece of glass. So it's a sigh, like through your mouth on the way out, okay? If you need to take a break or you feel dizzy or feel like you're gasping for air or anxious, just take a little bit of a break. And open mouth, long sigh. Nice job. Nice soft inhale through your nose. Good. Just as many good ones as you guys can get. Probably no more than 5 or 6 though, and then take a break. You okay like that? Okay. Can you feel if you get a little bit of air in there, it can kind of open that up a little bit?
Definitely.
Good. Yeah, that'll be super helpful for you just to practice that a little bit over time. I'll leave you guys alone for a second. If you want to ask questions when you do 5 or 6, please do.
So I understand why breath is helping to stimulate the lymph at the center. Is the sauna because of heat? Does heat
The infrared heat and light, yeah.
sweat or something, or is it truly just the heat?
The red light that's in there is what helps penetrate a little bit deeper into the skin. They've done really cool research on just red lights by themselves, and they can help. But the heat that creates the sweating to push some of the chemicals out, they find iron and all these different things that come out of people's sweat when they're using those infrared saunas. And because of the red light, it penetrates a little bit deeper into the tissue. It's a combo of the two that really helps. And the breathing, that cysternochyli and the stuff all run, so your diaphragm looks like a parachute, okay? So it kind of looks like this, and there's a hole in the center for your arteries to go through and for the lymph to run through, okay? So there's this diaphragm, and there's a little hole in the center, okay? And the lymph runs through it, okay? So when you push down, it pushes down on what's in the center there and then brings it back up and pushes down. So it actually catches in that hole too, where everything runs from your thoracic cavity to your abdominal cavity. So it kind of pushes along that line, okay? Could everybody feel their breath? Could everybody feel both places rising and falling, okay? So that's a very simple breathing pattern, okay? So I like to try to exhale a little bit longer than you inhale, okay? Because you want to get CO2 out of your body, okay? And when somebody has an anxiety attack, what are they usually doing? really fast with no exhale almost. Okay, they're trying to get more air in because they feel like they're out of air. Okay, and really what's happening is you're full of air, so you can't get more air in. Okay, but you're trying to pull more in, but the cup's full. Okay, if you get somebody that's having an anxiety attack to start to slow their exhales down, seeing the bag, what do they have to do with the bag? They're filling it up, right? They're having to breathe out more to fill the bag instead of constantly pulling air in and out really fast. So it starts to regulate, and they get to keep some of their CO2 with the bag because they're too little, because they're not actually getting air in and out and exchanging that. Okay, so you can actually help even if you don't have a bag, or you're like stranded with somebody having an anxiety attack or asthma attack kind of thing. A lot of times it's try to get them to slow their exhale down, and even count for them, and a lot of times they'll be able to like self-regulate a little bit faster before they pass out.
Is that why? Is it called the breath of fire when you when you're like blowing out? Is that what it's called?
The yoga one? Yeah.
When you're like breathing
Like the
out,
yogic breath.
is that
Yeah.
correlated with that? Is that?
There's 100 million different ways to train your breath. And so like what I do with clients typically is we evaluate how their rib cage is set up, how they breathe, where they have tension, where they have tender spots, and I would create a specific plan for that person's rib cage, for how they breathe, for the areas that are tender, and help work on those points if that's something they want to work on. So, because everybody's rib cage looks a little different, everybody's got different areas of issues. You know, it could be nutrition. You know, if you're putting in a lot of chemicals, your body is constantly processing them. Skincare, what's that app called? The Think Dirty app kind of shows what's in your skincare that could be clogging up lymph nodes and pores and stuff like that too.
Don't look there unless you want to cry about all
Yeah, it's usually not good, but yeah, it's looking at all those variables if you're constantly having issues. Okay, this is a way to help continue to make that happen more naturally, along with potentially cleaning up food and chemicals you're putting on your body. But our bodies are meant to be detox systems. Like that's what they do. Like they have to be able to do that on their own. But if you're not breathing, you're not moving your body, you know, you're putting a bunch of stuff on it, it can get overloaded, and it makes everything function a little bit more poorly. So you guys are in control of helping make that happen. If you have specific issues or breathing problems, that's where I go in and create individual programs or sessions with people to help them specifically with different rib cage movements, and just find out where they're limited. Some people are limited here, some are here, some are here, some are down the pelvic floor. So everybody's looks a little bit different. So we can talk about it a little bit more, but my goal for like ebb and float and stuff too is if you guys are already dedicated to like taking care of yourselves, then we could figure out like if you guys are members here, like we could do like a discount if you guys are interested in learning more about yourself individually. And I'll put that in like an email afterwards if you guys are interested in coming to see me for anything, or want to get an eval and just see if there's something you can do to continue to move that forward. I'd be happy to create like a little discount for you guys that kind of come here and go through ebb and float and stuff too.
It was definitely interesting doing the massager myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I felt as many of the pain points that you were able to
Mm-hmm.
find. So it was nice to be able to have somebody else find
Yeah.
those first to really kind of get enough feel for how deeply or how much pressure you should actually be applying.
Yeah, and there's different levels. You know, if she's making face, like I'm just reading her, you know, had a good poker face there for a little while with the tickles, but you just read the person and you go to their edge and you kind of go from there. So you guys are kind of doing the same thing, but it's always going to be harder for you to explore. Like you're not trained to do this. Like, of course it's going to feel a little bit different, but if you start to get the practice and start to feel things out, you're going to be making some small progress towards moving the lymph fluid through by manually doing it with the dry brushing. I mean, you can't go wrong with the dry brush. You just cover your whole body towards your heart, hit these points a little bit. You're going to get some change, okay? And then working on the breathing, you're going to get a huge benefit of just pumping through that, because that's what's going to continue to move that along for you. So.
I've had people come in who thought that they were coming in for one thing, like, I just have a tender point and I want to fix it, and then
Yeah.
they found out there were other things going on.
Yeah, I think everybody has an idea of that they're aware of their body and they know what's kind of going on with it. But it's always a process to start to uncover, because most of the times where you think it is, it ain't. Okay, it feels like it's this, but that is where the pain is, because that's overworking. But that's not how it started overworking in the first place. Like, why is this thing overworking? And it could be because this thing over here isn't working, so this has to overwork for it. So it's always a complicated process to uncover that stuff. But the more in tune you guys get with your body, the better information you can give somebody like me if you do have aches and pains. Because if you're like, oh, I have this and this and this, somebody walks in my office like, yeah, this thing hurts, I don't know why, like, it's been like that for 5 years. Like, you know, do you have any other, I mean, it happens all the time. But like, do you have any other issues? Like, I don't know. Like, they're just not in tune with themselves, or they've tried to turn it off because it's hurt for so long that they just don't want to think about it anymore. And that's how they deal with it, right? So a lot of times it's kind of uncovering, you know, what's going on with your body. But the more, you guys are here for that reason. Like, you're wanting to take care of yourself, you want to learn, okay? So you guys are great at starting to tune into those things and uncover that. And the better you can do that, the faster somebody hopefully can make you feel better when you do go see them. Because the more info you have and the more of that, as long as there's somebody that wants to help and care and pay attention, like, they'll be able to figure that stuff out, as long as you know, pay attention to yourself as well.
I think somebody asked a question about how this correlates specifically with the infrared sauna. And is it that we have toxins that get built up within our lymphatic system, and by keeping it moving freely flowing, that they're more easily able to then be released through the sweat? Is that kind of like the way this is, how this is going hand in hand with the sauna?
If you have one particular area that's built and built and built and built, it's getting stuffed up for a reason as well, okay? And you're not, and especially some of the deeper ones, the sauna is not getting, you know, 4 inches deep into your stomach. It's going to get a ton of the superficial stuff, but what we talk about, it's a closed loop system, right? If it moves out of here and into here, guess what's going to get it? The sauna, okay? If it's always stuck here, you're going to have a hard time rooting that out of there a little bit, okay? So as long as you keep that system moving and flowing really well, your body has a better chance to start to process it and get it out. Okay.
So what's the final removal or mechanism? Is it the sweat that's actually...
Sweat is, I mean, all of them. So sweat, pee, you know, taking a dump, like, all those things are a part of removing toxins from your body. How you exhale removes toxins from your body. So breathing out, sweating, so all of these things, part of our normal process is, hopefully if you move and work out and do things, you're sweating a little bit. If you come to the sauna, you're getting an even deeper sweat probably. You know, you go to the bathroom. If you're constipated, do this stuff. You'll actually go I've had clients that be like, you've solved my digestive problems. That was not the point whatsoever, you know, but just by starting to breathe better and massage their stomach a little bit, they got their own digestive system running a little bit normal again.
So after an effective lymphatic massage, should you see a change in your pee or the way that your bowels are?
Should you see a difference? Explain that to me more.
Well, if the extraction processes are sweat, or pee, or your bowel system, is there anything after you've stimulated all that movement of maybe stagnant lymph nodes? Would you see something different in the form of like a rash, or would I don't know, like, how do you tell if you've moved?
It's so, because most people aren't swollen super bad. Like, I have a couple lymphedema clients that, like, they've been able to track now over time that they've lost like 1.5 inches out of their one leg.
So it'll be the like your
but those are obvious, right? Like, somebody that's got like, her leg looks like double the other one because she had cancer and had some stuff removed. So she's seen the change in size, okay? Somebody that doesn't go to the bathroom, but like once every couple weeks. Like, I've had somebody that didn't go to the bathroom for once in a month. I mean, they peed, but outside of that, everything was so backed up, and it was just like this. I mean, she had to do a bunch more other stuff too, but you get the point. But yeah, you have to continue to make those systems work together. Hopefully, you're going to the bathroom regularly. If you're not, you may see like that returning to like a more normal rate. But if you're not inherently swollen bad, you're not going to see the huge change in that. hopefully you, like I said, we didn't actually do it because I'm bad at making people do things, but like you should see that you move freer. Your joints feel a little bit easier after, and you might be able to, depending on how in tune you are, you might be able to stand up and do this little stuff after and be like, actually before we started this I felt a little stiff and now I feel better. But you should move better, you should breathe a little better, you should hopefully be going to the bathroom regularly, or else maybe you should look in a little bit deeper to some of that stuff too, with digestion and gut health and doctors that can help you with that too. So you should go to the bathroom every day. Does that answer most? I mean, it's a little vague, but people that have a very dramatic should see a reduction in swelling. But outside of that, it's just going to be that the normal processes are running well. And hopefully you're not getting sick ever, right? If you're getting sick regularly, that's part of the process too, is getting sick less, hopefully. Thank you guys for awesome questions. I know I'm already over time pretty good probably. But if you guys want to ask me anything else after, you're welcome to. But otherwise, I want to let you guys get out of here if you need to get somewhere. So hopefully that was helpful to kind of go through the whole system. And yeah, thank you so much for coming in today.
How do we keep track of you?
One more click. If you have questions, which we already jumped into, my website, I don't really do blogs or anything, but if you contact me and stuff, like I said, I'll shoot you an email after about this stuff though, to kind of give you an overview of everything we talked about today, along with a couple little videos and charts and stuff. My Instagram maybe has a few more things on it, but I do have some cards, and I do have a sheet if you guys want to get the email afterwards. Just put your name down on that, legibly, hopefully, and I can send you that stuff over afterwards. Okay? Cool.
At the very minimum, I would recommend signing up for the email. Every time I talk to James, he teaches me something new. He's a wealth of information. So, and what I love is every time that he goes over something with me, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, that makes so much sense. Like, why aren't we taught this? You know, so it's, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys so much. So I have the sheets here if you guys want to sign up. Actually, I should probably put them out there where there's a hard surface maybe, because I don't have anything. I'll put it by the exit. Thank you.